So the other day in Germany, there was a massive street brawl between three rival groups. I believe the police said it was like Lebanese, Turks, and Kurds. So these guys were going after each other with machetes, batons, and luckily nobody was killed before the police came in and intervened. But that's pretty insane that this is going on German streets. Whereas like 5, 10 years ago, would you ever imagine this to happen in a lot of European countries? No, you wouldn't, because they didn't have a bunch of tribes in their countries fighting over territory, right? Like a lot of these immigrants coming in, first of all, are economic migrants. A lot of them aren't even refugees, but they come from countries that have like tribal warfare. They still have clans, tribes, things that we have gotten rid of in Western society hundreds or thousands of years ago. So bringing these people in, it's just a matter of time before they start, trying to kill each other, cut each other's heads off with fucking machetes. And what's also funny is that it's really hard to find any coverage of this other than Express, UK, or I forget their name, but that more right-wing news outlet and a few other right-wing ones. So the reason the media doesn't cover these things is so then when you bring up examples of it, be like, well, look what's going on in Germany right now. The only source that you can show is from these outlets. And if you've ever argued with a leftist, you know that they just if it's not from CNN, if it's not from their trusted news outlets, they're going to dismiss it out of hand. So this is why the media omits things. This is why they fail to cover a lot of stuff. So then when you do bring up evidence of it, you show like, oh, look what's going on. They can dismiss it and be like, oh, that's just right-wing propaganda, blah, blah, blah. That video is probably edited, right? Because I'll give you a link in the description, but there's a video. It shows, what was going on. The police intervene. But you go on Google, you try to search for this story. Nobody is covering it. But what becomes international stories is where a girl gets her hijab ripped off in Canada. It was like, oh my God, hate speech. That becomes an international thing. I just saw another story of a girl. She said the N-word when she was singing along with a song. Now everybody's losing their shit. And they're like, oh, this girl needs to be suspended. How could she? It's like she was singing along with this song. So if you don't want people to say the N-word, don't put it in your fucking music, okay? So they're more worried about this. They're not going to show you the tribal warfare going on within their country. And it's like, you got to look at the cultures from where you're bringing in these people. Like, some places, the way they treat criminals is fucking horrible. Like, they'll put like a tire around them and burn them alive in front of the whole village. Like, or they'll drag them through the streets, the ends of ropes, and like, cut their hands off. Like, it's sick. It's disgusting the way that a lot of these cultures deal with their problem people, right? And you see how they deal with corporal punishment within their own families. Like, a lot of girls get raped by their own siblings and brothers because they were a little bit promiscuous. So then their dad's like, yeah, go rape and kill them. Like, this happens a lot, and these types of things are increasing in Europe, in France, in the UK, but the government, the news outlets do not cover it. So they can just come out and call you crazy later and say it's not happening. They're gaslighting you. They're saying, oh, you're just conspiracy theorist, blah, 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 right? So, this is why they don't cover it. And they only cover things where it's like white people are doing stuff wrong. Like, look in South Africa, international news, where that one girl who's going to jail for hate speech laws. Like, she said something a year ago to a police officer. She called him a kafir or something. And this landed her in jail for like 2 years. And nobody's ever been sentenced to jail before for these crimes. So clearly they're just getting ready to shut anybody up who speaks out against what is going on in Africa. And then in South Africa, then all these news outlets come out too, and they're like, oh no, this is all just conspiracies. They're not getting killed any more than anybody else, blah, blah, blah. there's tons of crime in there, and everybody gets killed, not just them specifically. Even though the government comes out said they're going to confiscate their land without giving them any money in return, people are like, and then they'll argue, oh well, they stole in the first place, right? But if this was anybody else and the government said, oh, we're going to go confiscate their land, there would be some legitimacy for them to go to other countries. Like even Australia, there's one leader there in their parliament that wants them to come, but the EU officials, I think in their country, or I forget, some other official that was higher up in their government was like, no, we need to take these refugees instead. These people don't deserve it. These refugees in this little country, Seoul or Naomi or something, I forget what it's called. But he's like, oh, these people are depressed, and they need to come here, and they're depressed, and this is why we should take them in. While these people are actually in South Africa, have their government coming after them. People saying kill the Boers, like the communist parts in their government. And I was reading about South Africa and the presidents and stuff that came before this guy, and the one that came right after Mandela, as like Mick B or something. He had a picture of Karl Marx in his office. Like that was in his office, a picture of Karl Marx. And you could look at this yourself, look on Wikipedia or read up on him. It'll say that. And he became president in something like 1999. So it was 2000 when they enacted these hate speech laws and these things to make everything equal. So it was really in around 2000 when they really started to turn into communists, and then they instituted all these different laws. So it's the Marxists just gaining more control of their country, and a lot of people are justifying what their government is doing to the people, and they're like, yeah, they deserve this. And a lot of people are probably going to get killed, and a lot of bad shit is going to happen. And when Africa turns to shit and a lot of their people are starving because of the policies that they're trying to enact now, when that happens, we need to close the floodgates, right? We don't let anybody in. The people, you reap what you sow. You reap what you sow. And this is the thing, most governments only have power because their people allow them to have power. If enough people really disagreed with what their governments and that were doing to them, and that they would stand up against them and fight them. But clearly enough of them don't, or they agree with it. This is why a lot of Middle Eastern countries are shit and have all these oppressive laws, because a lot of people agree with those laws. They wouldn't have these. If 90% of Muslims disagree with those laws, they would not have them in their country. But clearly enough of them do agree with it. So, yeah, this is what Germany gets for letting in tons of these migrants from different cultures, from, I'm sorry to say, more barbaric cultures. And then what do? They come in and do tribal warfare. That's ridiculous. If you have people doing tribal warfare in your country, you got a fucking problem. And you need to figure something out. Don't bring more people in. That's just the dumbest fucking idea. But that's all I pretty much had to say. If you like my content, subscribe and have a good day. See ya.